If you're emotionally mature and somebody is not, one of two things happens. Either you go to their level and say like, oh, I'm going to let this slide even though it's not in my character to do it, or things get weird and you break rapport.
John Maxwell says people think wisdom comes with age. Nope. Sometimes age comes alone. We all know that person who's still acting like they're in their 20s, even though they're 30, 40, 50, 60. And so I realized, oh, that's why there was so much drama in my life before.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1308, Understanding Your Intuition. Today, for episode number 1309, the number one cause of drama in your life. While I could lie to you and say I came up with this episode and it was all me, Alan brought this topic, so I'm going to kick it to Alan, and he's going to explain why we're talking about what we're talking about and what is the value of what we're talking about.
All right, so yesterday evening, Emilia and I had a Relationship Talks virtual event. We do them every month, similar to NLU monthly meetups. And I thought, while it wasn't necessarily our best content or our best delivery, we had Emilia's office was like 90 degrees and my laptop was overheating, so we had to do some pivots on the tech side. But the concept itself, I realized after the event, we were on our walk with Tucker after the event, unpacking it, most important win, most important improvement, what went well, what didn't. And I said the most important win is that the idea, the big idea was so powerful for people. And I wanted to bring it to the NLU listeners as well. This is the big idea. This is the thesis. I personally never realized this. This, I think, was obvious to Emilia, but she's also been studying emotional intelligence and emotional regulation and emotional mastery and deep inner work for like basically her entire adult life. And so she does the content, I do the promotion of the event, and so this is credit to her. The thesis of the event was this. First of all, the title was How to Have a Drama-Free Relationship. In other words, how do you stop the fighting? How do you not fight? How do you stop all the chaos? How do you have a really certainty-driven, secure, unconditionally loving, beautiful, magnificent relationship? How do you do that? That's so difficult, right? You got so much going on. You got calendars and time constraints and holidays and potentially kids or pets or different things. Life can get really stressful. And so we created an event called How to Have a Drama-Free Relationship because Emilia had said, Alan, we're never going to fight. And I remember I looked at my childhood and I saw my mom and stepdad. They used to fight and all their friends also fought. And so I saw a lot of couples fighting when I was younger. And in past relationships, I did some fighting with my past relationships as well. And so to me, it was like, I don't understand how that's going to be possible because we want to be together forever. You've told me you want to be with me forever. I want to be with you forever. Like forever's a long time. We're never going to fight. She said, Alan, when you fight, that implies a winner and a loser. And when you fight, no one wins. And for everyone out there who has fought, trust me, it took me 30 years to have a drama-free, no-fighting relationship. And so here we are almost 4 years into our relationship, and we've never actually stormed out. We've never yelled at each other. We've never really fought. We've had what we call passionate debates. And we've had challenging moments for sure. We've definitely had times where I was triggered and my temper was close. And we've had close calls, but we've never really fought. No storming out, no slamming doors, no yelling, none of that. And I never thought that was possible. So for those of you out there, first and foremost, it is possible. But here's the key. I never knew this was why. Because I remember like, how are we doing this? I honestly think it's more her than me. The thesis of the event is this. You cannot have a drama-free relationship if the emotional maturity of the individuals in the relationship is low. In other words, all of the drama, the title of this episode, the number one cause of drama in your life, I never connected this. Emotional immaturity. I have some family members. I have some friends. I have some colleagues who are extremely emotionally immature. And they get offended very easily. They are disrespectful at times. And I never connected it to, oh, they're just a super immature. And I had everyone in the audience, I said, everyone raise their hand if they know someone who's 50 or 60 who still acts like a teenager. And most people raised their hand. John Maxwell says, people think wisdom comes with age. Nope. Sometimes age comes alone. We all know that person who's still acting like they're in their 20s, even though they're 30, 40, 50, 60. And so I realized, oh, that's why there was so much drama in my life before. Because the emotional maturity of the people in my life was actually pretty low. Last piece. Emotional maturity is actually a very simple little equation. You know we love triads. And Emilia came up with this, not me. Emotional intelligence, which is, there's IQ and EQ. Emotional intelligence is, and then in corporate they talk about emotional intelligence, EI. You can call it EQ or EI. I would say, Kev, you have fairly high emotional intelligence. Particularly for a male, I think statistically speaking, men tend to be a little more immature. Emotionally immature. Okay? Statistically speaking, that's what I think. Not in all cases, and that's why I think men tend to be older than women that they date. And I'll use myself as an example. There's no way, when I met Emilia, she was 25 years old. There's no way me at 25 could have been with her at 25. I'm 6, 7 years older, and my emotional maturity was not high enough to be in a relationship with her when I was in my mid-20s. And I know that to be for sure. But I never knew why. I never knew it was emotional immaturity. You know? And so the equation is emotional maturity equals emotional intelligence plus emotional regulation, which is not blowing your lid, controlling your temper, being able to regulate your emotions, and emotional adaptability, which is kind of like being a chameleon. So Kev, you've talked about how, you can fit into any room. That can be a bad thing if you're in the wrong rooms. Same. And so think about it for the listeners. Which of these three is your strong one? I think we all have a really strong one. I think we all have one weak one, and I think we all have a decent one. For me, the really strong one is the chameleon. I can mold myself to fit the situation very well. I think my weak one is emotional intelligence. I don't think I studied emotions enough. Kev, if I asked you the 6 basic human emotions, would you be able to say them?
No.
So me neither. So Emilia, during the event, she's like, who here knows the 6 basic human emotions? And Amy L was like, me. And I was like, babe, you're supposed to ask questions that people actually raise their hand to, right? I'm sitting there like, I'm presenting the event and I didn't raise my hand. I didn't know that before this slide.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen the movie Inside Out by Pixar, those disgust, joy, that's kind of what it's built on. But anyways, to get back to this episode, the number one cause of drama in your life is the emotional immaturity of the people in it. Whoa! For me, man, major breakthrough, because I'm not going to lie to you. Some of the people in my past are super, super immature. Now, still love them. I'm immature at times too. But, wow. Just a huge breakthrough moment for me, so I wanted to bring it to the listeners.
It's very interesting because Taryn and I connected when I don't know, was I 27, 26, 25? I don't remember. We connected and dated prior to us meeting up and then falling deeply in love and getting married and all that, obviously. And I remember when we first connected, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can hang with this. Like, she's way ahead of me. I'm a bodybuilder bro. And again, nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but my emotional intelligence, my emotional maturity was just not on the level of hers. And it's interesting. I mean, she's in human services, so she has to be put together, right? Like she leads, and at that point was leading other humans and advocating for other humans. So it was just drastically different where I was in kind of like construction. And the people I was surrounding myself with, again, I'm not saying they were bad people, but yeah, we were not emotionally mature by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is also one of the reasons why when you go back to old environments, sometimes you feel dirty. Because if you're emotionally mature and somebody is not, one of two things happens. Either you go to their level and say like, oh, I'm going to let this slide, even though it's not in my character to do it, or things get weird and you break rapport. And we've had that happen with previous mentors and people we would spend time with. That's happened for us. So that's a very interesting understanding. Sometimes you changing and you growing, although it's helping you when you go back into old environments, that's the contrast. Especially if you're somebody who's focused on growing. If you're focused on self-awareness, you're going to have to raise your maturity level with your emotions. That's just going to happen. That's just going to be par for the course. Now, this is the interesting thing. This is what I would say. I think that one of the challenges for human beings is if you increase the weight of the load of pressure you have, I think it's far harder to have, I won't even say emotional maturity, emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that I think.
But that makes you work on it.
Yeah.
Which then makes it better.
But those moments of imperfection, I think, are oftentimes coming. I guess I would say, like, what's the difference between drama and, I don't know, like a flare-up?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda. I am a dental hygienist and a mom of 2 teenagers. I was first introduced to Kevin and Alan about 3 years ago, where I listened to a live Zoom training. I was really impressed with the value that they packed into that hour-long call, and that led me to their podcast page. I've been blessed to be able to be a student of them in that way through their podcast over the last 3 years, and the growth that I've seen in them, I guess, is what inspires me to keep coming back, because they not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk, and I see the changes in them. Weekly, monthly, yearly. So that led me to book a consultation with Alan about 6 months ago. And I showed up to that call in the lowest spot that I have been at in my entire life. The empathy and compassion that he presented in that call and how much work we still got done despite the state that I was in was, again, very impressive to me, and I've been a one-on-one client ever since. Alan is someone that you want in your corner. I have grown so much over the past 6 months in my ability to make decisions, my confidence, the relationships that I have, my organization, my motivation, and I'm only just getting started. I've made so many big moves, and he is the biggest motivator and the biggest encourager, and he is a good human that genuinely wants the best in your life, your future, your love, your relationships, your wealth, and they just want to make the world a better place, and I believe that. And if you have the chance to be in the same room or on the same call or have these two in your life in any way, then you are blessed, and it is a gift. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for everything that you guys do and pour into everyone, and I'm just so excited to watch your journey keep unfolding and to be a part of that in any way that I can.
Great. This is exactly it. And honestly, I want to be transparent. I think that one of the reasons, I do believe this to be true, one of the reasons why I think we have a lot of female listeners is because they can sense the emotional maturity that you and I have come up on. And I do think that statistically speaking, again, I'm just going to talk statistics here for a second, okay? Statistically speaking, I do think women tend to be more emotionally mature. And here's my thesis. This is my belief system. I didn't learn this anywhere. I just think they had journals. Like, it was cool to have a diary when you're a little girl. I have journals now, and I never had journals before 26 years old. Do you remember ever journaling or any of that? For a guy, that was not a thing, and I wish it was. And we're obviously now part of that, thing. We encourage everyone to have a journal, guy or girl, anything, have a journal. But I now understand, honestly, even from what the story that you just told, Kev, I remember you and I were in the car. We were heading to Chipotle after the gym, a couple bodybuilder bros. And you said, I met this woman, Taryn, and she's amazing. And you told me all about her. And I remember you saying, I think I screwed that up. And you said, do you think I closed the door on that too fast? And I honestly, at the time, I remember this. We were in your Subaru, your WRX. How dare I call it a Subaru, right? Your WRX. And I said, yeah, it sounds like you did close the door too soon on that. It sounds like you that up, honestly. Pardon my French. And I told you that straight up.
Yeah.
And then years later, after a ton of emotional maturity and emotional regulation and pressure and anxiety zone and challenges and dreams and goals and hyperconsciousness and the podcast, you reconnected with Taryn and now you're on the same wavelength.
Mm.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think, honestly, and I said this to Kev before we did this episode, that's why you and Taryn do so well, I think. I think the emotional maturity, Kevin flexes, but it's funny because he's not serious. Kev can play with his ego. I'm just going to talk openly about you. If
Talk
that's cool.
about me like I'm not even
All right.
here.
I want to share this with everyone because if you've ever seen pictures of Kevin and I flexing, the only reason why that's even funny and not just silly and kind of immature.
Hopefully
is
you think it's funny.
Hopefully
not,
you think it's
and
funny.
not immature.
But it's because we're playful with our egos because we know we have egos, but we're not letting them drive. The ego isn't actually driving. We're not actually flexing because we're trying to be like strong and look strong. Like we're being playful with it. I think that's what humor is, being playful with your own ego or other people's ego. Whereas if you actually are being driven by your ego because you're emotionally immature, it actually comes off as just weird. And sometimes I don't think people can tell the difference, but I digress. I guess what I would ask you, Kev, is how much do you think your emotional maturity has come up in the last 6 years?
A lot. A lot. I don't know. It's I don't know what the measure is. Exponentially. But one of the interesting things is I don't really hang out with anybody, so it makes it pretty easy. I think a lot of the struggles that most humans experience, I don't experience because I don't really hang out with anybody.
But when you do, isn't it difficult? This is new. I'm 34 now. We're getting older.
It is.
This is new for me. It's like hard for me sometimes to be around really emotionally immature people.
Yeah, but I don't expect people to be as emotionally mature. So for me, it's not really that big of a deal. I understand.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going, and again, I'm not saying.
But you also don't spend a ton of time there.
No.
But that's the thing, right? Imagine if you did, how hard that would be.
I just don't think I would. Again, I know that's weird.
Well, for our listeners, I think.
Yeah. I know.
I think that usually, and this is really the question: how emotionally mature are your peers, your family, and your partner? That's the question I wanted to ask everyone. Because Kev, you don't spend a ton of time with family, and you don't spend a ton of time with people from your past. So you're not really around people that didn't grow up as much as you. And by grow up, I mean in just the category of emotional regulation, emotional adaptability, emotional intelligence, emotional maturity. That's all I'm talking about here. I'm not saying anything other than that. But I want to share this with our listeners too. Kevin and I have met some really, really, really successful people financially, and the emotional maturity was not there. And that was shocking for us. And now I know why. It's IQ, it's not EQ. You don't need necessarily, I mean, you do, but there are people that are very successful that are still extremely immature. And that was alarming for me. I know that's been hard for you too.
Yeah.
To see.
Well, the character, I expected. Oh my goodness, we got to go. You have 5 minutes before your call. I was completely in flow. Very rarely does that happen for me where I'm completely in flow or I lose track of time. Yeah, it was hard for me because it's kind of a character thing. Like I assume the more successful you get, the more opportunities you get, the more you talk to people, the more mature you become. I just assume that's
not true.
No, I know. Unfortunately, this is the last thing I'll say. While I don't spend a lot of time, I think this is kind of it. I don't spend a lot of time with people outside of the team and Taryn and the small family that we do have. You and I have such a amazing team around us where it wouldn't fly if we weren't that. That's the other thing is like part of having the amazing team we have is we were able to attract the amazing team that we were able to attract. But there's no slip ups. You can't slip up like this when you're that behind the scenes as often as we are. Like this is who we are. I think that's part of it too. So I would say I want to make sure I give credit to the amazing team because they've helped me
Definitely.
continue that because I want to lead that way. And Taryn's helped me a ton with that as well. So I think those are big parts of it.
Well, Taryn actually helped me too, because when Kevin was with Taryn, I know we got to go. When Kevin started being with Taryn, I got out of a relationship and his emotional maturity was increasing and mine was slipping back. And I remember you called me out on it because I was headed back towards single. And now Emilia and Taryn are so emotionally mature that we have to be just to be us and be in this magnificent relationship. But that's what I would have everyone ask is, how emotionally mature are your peers, family, and partner? And Kev, I actually think that you unconsciously can't stand emotional immaturity. You don't like being around it. I just realized that. That's why you go. You're like, I'm out. I gotta go.
Well, if it's toxic, I don't want to be around it.
Yeah, if it's toxic. Exactly. Yeah, fair.
I mean, there's
Cool.
very good episode. There's some level of emotional immaturity. It's like, you just don't have that much life experience yet. I completely understand. When I was 20 years old, I didn't either, right?
Yeah.
But if it's you're intentionally being hurtful or something like that, no, I don't have time or space for that. Just not for me. Not for me. Next Level Nation. Oh my goodness. Hold on. I have to make sure I get the title correct. Oh my goodness. Our next meetup. So every single month we want to connect with you, and we understand that not everybody can pay for group coaching or one-on-one coaching. Maybe Next Level Nation's not enough. So every single month we do a free meetup where we will teach something, and then there's time at the end where we can all connect and we can learn about each other. For our 17th month in a row, this is on, I don't know when this is, May 4th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be doing the 3 most valuable things you never learned about money. Here's the beautiful thing about these meetups. They're behind the scenes, so we can talk much deeper than we do on the podcast. They're totally private. They're not recorded, so you can be yourself and you can ask vulnerable questions. Please join us.
Great work, man.
I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Book club is every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are reading Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess by Dr. Caroline Leaf. It is about to end. I will be putting a poll for the next book, so please vote in Next Level Nation. If you want to join book club, the registration link will be in the show notes.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1310. One place you really need to be honest with yourself. We will talk about that tomorrow. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep it mature, Next Level Nation.